The vast emptiness of the Tellurian Nebula was not truly empty. It shimmered with exotic particles and hid pockets of warped space, making navigation a nightmare for anyone without the proper charts. The Council had declared it a restricted zone for millennia, a place of forbidden knowledge and danger. The human exploration vessel, the Curiosity, was there to study those particles from a safe distance. Its mission purely scientific. On the bridge, Captain Ji-hun watched the swirling colors on the main viewer. He was a patient man, his dark hair touched with gray at the temples. He had spent 20 years pushing into the quiet corners of the galaxy, mapping nebulae and cataloging gas formations. This was his life's work. Energy spike at bearing 027. His second-in-command Su-min said from the science station. Her voice was calm, but carried a note of professional curiosity. It's not in our predictive models. Could be a natural particle cascade. Log it and keep sensors focused, Ji-hun replied. Let's not get any closer. Our permissions are clear. We observe from the buffer zone. The buffer zone was a strip of space 10,000 kilometers wide where scientific study was technically allowed by the Galactic Council. The Curiosity was well within it. But permissions, Ji-hun knew, were often matters of interpretation for that powerful. The alarm that blared through the ship seconds later was not for a natural phenomenon. It was a proximity alert, followed instantly by a violent shudder as space itself seemed to crack open 50 kilometers off their port bow. 3 sleek, angular warships materialized from a rift in reality, their hulls a dark, non-reflective alloy that drank in the starlight. They were Tellurian Enforcer-class vessels, the Council's mailed fist. Captain. The communications officer, a young man named Bin, called out, his voice tight. We are being hailed. It's the Galactic Council Enforcer judgment. On screen, Ji-hun ordered, standing up and straightening his uniform jacket. The face that appeared was reptilian, with vertical slick-pupilled eyes and scales the color of tarnished bronze. Commander Kalen. His expression was one of profound boredom, as if interrupting his day was a personal insult. Human vessel Curiosity, Kalen hissed, the translator rendering his words into cold, precise galactic standard. You have violated Council Edict 7 Alpha by entering the Tellurian restricted zone. Power down your engines and prepare for boarding and inspection. Any resistance will be met with immediate disintegration. Ji-hun felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Commander, this is a misunderstanding. We are in the designated buffer zone, grid reference Sigma 9. Our permits are active and filed with the Council's Science Directorate. Our mission is peaceful observation. Kellen's forked tongue flicked out. Your permits are irrelevant. Your presence here is a violation. You will comply, now. The channel cut off before Ji-hun could reply. They're launching boarding shuttles, Su-min reported, her hands flying over her console. 2 of them. Weapons are charged and locked onto us. Ji-hun made a decision. Fighting was suicide. The Curiosity had only minimal point defense lasers. Stand down all systems. Do not give them a reason. This is a bureaucratic error. We will sort it out. The boarding was not bureaucratic. It was a military assault. Magnetic clamps thudded against the hull, and the sounds of cutting torches echoed through the corridors. Within minutes, Tellurian soldiers in black combat armor filled the bridge, their energy rifles raised. They said nothing, their hostile intent clear in their stance. Ji-hun, Su-min, and the bridge crew were forced to their knees, hands bound with energy cuffs. They were marched to the ship's small mess hall, which had become a makeshift holding cell. The rest of the crew, 30 men and women, were already there. Looking scared and confused, Commander Kalen strode in, followed by a smaller, robed figure who lingered near the doorway, their face hidden by a deep hood. Kalen ignored the prisoners. Examining a data pad one of his officers handed him. "Scanning logs confirm it, Commander," the officer said. They recorded deep spectral data of the nebula's core. "That data is classified as forbidden technology." "We were studying background radiation," Sumin said defiantly from her knees. "There's nothing forbidden about it." Kalen backhanded her across the face with a scaled hand. The crack echoed in the silent room. Ji-hun strained against his cuffs, a hot rage boiling in his chest. "You do not speak unless commanded," Kalen said, his voice a low menace. He looked at Ji-hun. "Your species is young. You do not understand the dangers you toy with. This data is a threat to galactic stability. The punishment for this theft is clear." He nodded to his soldiers. 3 of them stepped forward and roughly hauled 2 junior engineers and the ship's medic to their feet. The young medic, a woman named Yoon-ji, cried out in fear. "What are you doing?" Ji-hun shouted. "You have no authority for this. We are a scientific mission." "Your mission is espionage," Kalen stated flatly. "The sentence is death. A message must be sent to your upstart species about the consequences of trespassing against council law." The prisoners were dragged to the center of the room. There was no ceremony, no last words. The Tellurian soldiers raised their rifles. 3 precise beams of plasma lanced out. The smell of ozone and something worse filled the air. 3 bodies crumpled to the deck. A terrible silence fell, broken only by a muffled sob from one of the crew. Ji-hun stared at the bodies, his mind refusing to process what he had just seen. It was a cold, efficient execution, an act of brutal theater. Kalen looked down at the corpses, then at the horrified faces of the remaining humans. "Let this be your lesson. You will be taken to a holding world to await the Council's final judgment on your species' transgression. Be grateful your lives are spared." He turned and left, his soldiers following. The robed figure at the door hesitated for a moment. One hand, slender and with 3 long fingers, emerged from a sleeve and subtly adjusted a device on their belt. A tiny, almost invisible lens glinted for a second, pointed at the scene. Then the figure turned and disappeared after Kalen. Alone with their dead, the crew of the Curiosity sat in shock. Ji-hun finally looked away from his fallen crewmates and met Sumin's eyes. Hers were wide with terror, but beneath that he saw the same fire that now burned in his own heart. This was not a mistake. This was not bureaucracy. This was an atrocity. The rogue observer, whose name was Era, returned to the Tellurian flagship. In the privacy of a secure compartment, she removed her hood, revealing a delicate, avian-like face with large, dark eyes. Her people, the Sivari, were neutral members of the Council, valued for their scientific minds. She had been assigned as an observer to ensure Tellurian actions were within parameters. What she had witnessed was far outside any parameters of justice. Her hand trembled as she ejected the data crystal from her recording device. The full, uncensored visual and audio of the unprovoked execution was stored on it. The Council's official report would, she knew, speak of a firefight, of human aggression. This crystal was the truth. She thought of the young faces of the humans, of the cold finality of the act. Her people believed in balance and evidence. This was an imbalance that threatened to poison everything. She made her choice. Using a deeply buried, ancient Sivari diplomatic channel 1, not monitored by the Tellurians, she prepared a compressed data burst. She attached the crystal's contents and set the destination for the human, diplomatic frequency beacon near the edge of explored space. With a silent apology to her own cautious government, she sent the truth spinning into the void, a single spark aimed at a distant, grieving world. The transmission from the edge of known space arrived at the United Earth Defense Headquarters as a ghost signal, a whisper of data so heavily encrypted it was nearly invisible. It was flagged by a young analyst named Min Seok, who worked the night shift in the secure communications bunker deep under the mountains of Korea. The decryption protocols were ancient and strange, not of human design, but they unlocked cleanly. When the video played on his screen, Min Seok's blood ran cold. He called his supervisor, who called the director. Within an hour, the secure briefing room was occupied by 3 people. Director Min-ji watched the recording in absolute silence, her face a mask of stone. To her right, military strategist Tae-ho's jaw muscle ticked rhythmically. To her left, Admiral June, a man with a severe haircut and eyes the color of flint, did not move a muscle, but his hands, resting on the table, curled slowly into fists. The video ended. The only sound was the low hum of the climate control. 37 seconds, Tae-ho finally said, his voice rough. From the accusation to the execution. No trial. No attempt to verify our permits. They killed Yoonji, Park, and Lee like they were removing a stain. They are sending a message, Admiral June stated. His voice was quiet, which those who knew him understood was dangerous. We are not a galactic power to them. We are a nuisance. They are teaching us our place. Director Min-ji leaned forward, her fingers steepled. And what is our place, Admiral? Wherever we choose it to be, he replied, meeting her gaze. But they believe it to be on our knees. The political reaction, when the evidence was shared with the Earth Coalition Council, was chaos. Some factions screamed for immediate, all-out war. Others preached caution, fearing the extinction of humanity against the 1,000-year-old might of the Galactic Council. News networks fed sanitized summaries, broadcast images of the fallen crew, sparking outrage and marshes on every continent. The galaxy, through its few diplomatic channels, was silent. The Council offered no explanation, no apology. They simply stated that the matter of the human violation was under internal review. It was the gravest of insults. In her office, Min-ji stared at the star chart on her wall. The Tellurian Nebula was a tiny, glowing swirl. The Council's central communications hub, a station known as the Nexus, was a blinking light nearby. It was the nerve center for Council diplomacy and military coordination in that sector, heavily fortified and perpetually surrounded by a fleet of Tellurian guardians. They think we are limited, she said to Tae-ho and June, who stood with her. They think in terms of fleets meeting fleets, of declarations of war. They expect either our submission or a suicidal charge. What do they not expect? Tae-ho asked. A surgical cut, June answered, his eyes fixed on the Nexus. They do not expect us to be able to get near it. Their sensor net is impenetrable to standard FTL drives. They see everything coming from light years away. A small, cold smile touched Min-ji's lips. But we do not use standard drives anymore, do we, Admiral? 2 years prior, a black-budget project, the Silent Step Initiative, had borne its first fruit. Human engineers, working on principles of quantum entanglement and spatial compression, had created the silent drive. It did not tear a hole through subspace like conventional FTL. Instead, it allowed a ship to slip between the folds of reality. It was slower, and it required immense precision, but it had one overwhelming advantage. It was undetectable by any known Council sensor technology. A test ship had parked 50 kilometers from a listening outpost for a week without a single alarm being raised. Only a single vessel, a cruiser, had been retrofitted with the system, the UES Vengeance. One ship, Tae-ho breathed, understanding dawning. Not a war, a statement, a response, Min-ji corrected. They executed 3 of ours without mercy. A proportional response would be to destroy the judgment. But that would start the war they expect, the war we cannot win yet. We must respond differently. We must make them helpless. The plan was formed in that room. The Vengeance would slip into the nebula's sensor-blind edges. It would carry a full Marine complement and a squadron of the new Spectre fighters, which used the same stealth technology in short bursts. Their objective was not destruction, but capture. Seize the Nexus, isolate it, hold it, and broadcast the truth on every council channel. Admiral June was given command. He selected his crew personally. The pilot for the lead Spectre fighter was Lieutenant Hay-1, a woman known for her preternatural calm and reflexes that bordered on precognition. The Marine commander was Sergeant Day-Hyon, a veteran of the asteroid belt conflicts, a man who believed in preparation over passion. For 2 weeks, they trained in simulators that used the stolen council data to recreate the Nexus down to the last air duct. On the final night before departure, June walked the quiet halls of the Vengeance in its orbiting dock. He found Hay-1 in the fighter bay, running a hand over the sleek, angular nose of her craft. "Nervous, Lieutenant?" She shook her head. "No, sir. I am angry. The simulators show the Nexus's defense patrol patterns. They are complacent. They move like they have not faced a real threat in centuries." She looked at him. "They think we are ants." "Then we will be ants in their command circuitry," June said. "Quiet, unseen, and capable of bringing down the whole machine." In the Marine barracks, Day-Hyon was checking his squad's gear for the 3rd time. His second-in-command, a corporal named Ji-Woo, watched him. "They say the station has 500 Tellurian guards, Sarge." "They do," Day-Hyon said, not looking up from a suit seal. "And we have 40. "Correct. And that doesn't worry you?" Day-Hyon finally looked at him. "Worry is a waste of energy. They have numbers. We have surprise, and we have a reason. They killed our people for taking a scan. We are here for our people. That is a different kind of math." His voice was flat, matter-of-fact. "We will win because we have to." On Earth, Director Minji stood on a balcony, looking at the stars. The political leaders had, reluctantly, given their secret approval. The weight of what she had set in motion was immense. This was not a battle for territory. It was a battle for perception. If they failed, humanity would be crushed. If they succeeded, the galaxy would have to look at humanity with new eyes. She thought of the video of the young medic Yoon-ji falling. The Council's mercy had been a plasma bolt. Humanity's mercy, she thought, would be of a different kind. It would be a choice offered from a position of strength, not weakness. But first, they had to seize that strength. Back in orbit, the U-East Vengeance detached from its dock. It did not fire traditional engines. Instead, space around it seemed to waver like a heat haze. With a soundless ripple, it was gone, slipping into the silent dark between places. The journey to the Tellurian Nebula would take 10 days. 10 days of silent running, cut off from all communication. A ghost ship carrying the hopes, the rage, and the cold determination of an entire species. Their target waited ahead, shining, arrogant and utterly unaware that its judgment was already en route. The void near the Tellurian Nexus was never silent. It thrummed with the low-energy signatures of 100 relay stations, the constant chatter of faster-than-light communications, and the routine patrol pulses of the Guardian fleet. It was a place of orderly power, a monument to the Galactic Council's permanence. The station itself was a sprawling, elegant ring, like a crown of silver and light, rotating slowly against the backdrop of the nebula's shimmering gas. On the command deck of the Tellurian flagship Judgment, Commander Kalen reviewed the latest dispatches. The human incident was already fading from his mind, filed away as a minor disciplinary action. The Council had issued a bland statement, and the expected human cries of outrage had been, from his perspective, satisfyingly weak. They had done nothing. As predicted, he turned his attention to the more pressing matter of an unruly mining colony on the other side of the sector. He did not see the subtle ripple in space, 500 kilometers off the Nexus's starboard side. It was not on any screen. It made no energy surge. Space simply bent, twisted, and settled, as if taking a breath. The U's Vengeance hung there, a darker shadow against the dark, its angular hull absorbing sensor sweeps. Inside, the air was cold and tense. Admiral June stood on the bridge, his eyes on the main viewer, which displayed the Nexus in all its arrogant glory. "Status," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "All systems silent," the tactical officer responded. "Their patrol patterns are unchanged. No indication of detection. The nebula's radiation is masking our residual heat signature perfectly. Marine teams." "Final check," June said in the launch bay. Sergeant Day Hyan listened to the click and hiss of 40 vacuum suits sealing. His helmet display came alive, showing the vitals of his squad. "Remember the drill," he said over the squad channel. "Speed, silence, shock. We are not here to fight the whole station. We are here to take the command center. Let the Spectres handle the guards outside." He looked at Corporal Ji Woo, who gave him a firm nod. They were ready. In the fighter bay, Lieutenant Hay-1 settled into the cockpit of her Spectre. Her hands moved over the controls, a silent dance of activation. The fighter, like the Vengeance, was coated in a sensor-absorbent material. It had no running lights. It was a blade waiting to be thrown. Her squadron, 5 other pilots, signaled ready. "Begin Operation Silent Knife," Admiral June ordered. The first move was electronic. From the Vengeance, a focused burst of invasive code. Designed by human cyber warfare teams studying captured council tech. Shot toward the Nexus. It targeted not the defenses, but the internal communication network. Across the station, control screens flickered. For 12 seconds, the Tellurian guards in the hallways saw static on their status monitors. It was a minor glitch. Annoying, but not alarming. It was all the time the Spectres needed. The launch tubes of the Vengeance opened and closed in less than a second. 6 fighters like ghosts shot toward the Nexus. They did not fly in a straight line. They used the station's own superstructure as cover, darting between communication spires and docking arms. Hay-1's target was the primary external defense battery, a heavy plasma cannon turret. She came at it from its blind spot, the station itself. 2 precision plasma bolts, muted and focused, severed its power feed. It died without firing a shot. Across the Nexus, the story repeated. Sensor dishes went dark. Weapon ports were disabled. The Guardian fleet, patrolling the perimeter, saw nothing. The station's external systems were being methodically blinded and disarmed by unseen surgeons. Phase 2. June said. The Vengeance moved. It drifted, slow and silent, directly toward the main docking ring. Its magnetic grapplers, coated in non-reflective polymer, reached out and clamped onto the station's hull with a soft thud that echoed through the metal. Unheard in the vacuum, Sergeant Dayan's team blew the emergency airlock door with a shaped charge that sent a vibration through the deck, but no explosive flash into space. They were in. The interior corridor was wide, gleaming, and empty. According to the stolen schematics, the Central Command Nexus was 7 levels up and 500 meters inward. They moved in pounding pairs, their boots making no sound on the decking. They encountered the first 2 Tellurian guards at a junction. The guards were looking at a flickering control panel, annoyed by the static. They never saw the Marines. Suppressed rounds, designed to puncture Tellurian scales, snapped twice. The guards fell. The Marines dragged the bodies into a side room and moved on. Alarms were finally starting to blare on the command deck of the Nexus, but they were confused, isolated. A weapons battery was offline. A sensor cluster had failed. Internal comms were spotty. The Tellurian station commander, an old veteran named Volok, snarled in frustration. Is this a drill? A systems failure? I want answers. He did not get an answer. He got Admiral June. The main view screen of the command deck fizzed with static and then cleared, showing the stern, unyielding face of a human man in a black uniform. Standing on a strange bridge. Tellurian Nexus Command, June said, his galactic standard flawless and cold. This is Admiral June of the United Earthship Vengeance. Your station is under our control. Your external defenses are neutralized. You will order all personnel to stand down. You will specifically deliver Commander Kalen of the Judgment to the main docking bay. You have 60 seconds to comply. Vorlik stared, his scales flushing with dark color and rage and shock. Human? How? This is impossible. Guardian Fleet, identify and destroy this vessel. On screen, June did not smile. Your Guardian Fleet sees nothing. Your signals are not reaching them. Comply, or we will secure the station by less gentle means. In the corridors, Daehyun's team met organized resistance for the first time. A squad of 6 Tellurian guards had set up a barricade outside the command center blast doors. Plasma fire sizzled down the hall. A Marine named Rin took a glancing shot to the shoulder, her suit auto-sealing with a hiss. Flash and clear. Daehyun ordered Ji Woo tossed a non-lethal concussion grenade around the corner. It detonated with a deafening bang and a blinding light. The Tellurians, with their sensitive eyes and ears, screamed in disorientation. The Marines rounded the corner and finished the job with brutal efficiency. At the blast doors, Daehyun placed breaching charges. Fire in the hole. The explosion blew the mighty doors inward. The Marines stormed the command deck of the Galactic Council's premier communications hub. Vorlik and his officers stood frozen, hands raised, staring at the armed humans in their pristine sanctuary. Admiral June's face was still on the main screen. Station Commander Vorlik. The time for compliance has passed. Sergeant, secure them. Across the station, the fighting died as the order from a captured command center echoed through the compromised comms. Stand down. The impossible had happened. Outside, the Guardian Fleet finally noticed something was wrong. The Nexus had gone completely silent. No status pings. No patrol updates. 3 Tellurian cruisers, including the Judgment, broke formation and moved in. Lieutenant Hay-1 saw them coming on her passive sensors. Admiral, Guardian vessels are approaching. Bearing and speed suggest a tactical scan. Allow them to scan. June replied from the captured command deck. Then show them why they should stop. The lead cruiser, the Judgment, activated its high-resolution scanners, painting the dark hull of the Vengeance now clearly attached to the station. The scan data would have shown a ship of modest size, seemingly vulnerable. Kalen, on the bridge of the Judgment, felt a surge of vindictive triumph. There, a human pest. Target it and destroy it. Ignore the station's silence. It is their sabotage. As the Judgment's weapons powered up, Hay-1 and her specters, hidden until now, acted. They rose from the shadow of the Nexus like avenging spirits. They did not attack the ship. They attacked its weapons. Pinpoint plasma bursts severed turret connections and melted missile launch tubes. In 20 seconds, the Judgment was disarmed, its hull scarred but its core intact, floating helplessly. On the Nexus command deck, June watched the feed. He opened a channel to the entire Guardian Fleet, and through the Nexus, to every Council channel it was linked to. This is Admiral June. The Nexus is ours. Your lead ship is disarmed. Any further aggressive action will result in the total destruction of this station and all Tellurian personnel aboard. The choice is now yours. Stand down and watch. Across the galaxy, in council chambers and command centers, the feed from the Nexus came live. It showed the proud command deck, now occupied by human soldiers, and through the viewport, the sight of the mighty Judgment, wounded and still. The message was not one of words, but of undeniable, shocking fact. The Council, in that moment, could do nothing. Their fortress was taken. Their enforcer was humiliated. Their technology was bypassed. They could only watch as the humans they had called insects held the crown of their power in a grip of silent, terrifying steel. Silence reigned on the captured command deck of the Nexus. The only sounds were the low hum of life support, the soft beeps from control panels now under human oversight, and the harsh breathing of the Tellurian prisoners. Sergeant Dehyan's Marines had them kneeling, hands bound with the same energy cuffs once used on the crew of the Curiosity. Commander Volek glared at the floor, his scales dull with humiliation. Admiral June's image was still on the main screen, but he was now looking at a different feed. It showed the interior of the Nexus's main docking bay. The bay doors were sealed shut, but inside was a crowd. Over 300 Tellurian station personnel, soldiers, technicians, administrators had been rounded up and herded there by Marine teams, disarmed and confused. They milled about under the watchful eyes of a few human guards. "Admiral," the voice of Lieutenant Hay-1 came through the comms from her Spectre, still prowling the space near the crippled Judgment. "Guardian fleet is holding position. They are not advancing. They are waiting. I am detecting heavy comms traffic between them, but we are still blocking all signals from the Nexus itself." "Good," June said. "Hold the line, Lieutenant." He turned to a Marine stationed at the command console. "Open a channel to the Judgment only. Tight beam." On the bridge of the wounded Tellurian cruiser, Commander Kalen was in a fury. His ship was powerless to fight, his station was taken, and the entire galaxy was watching this disgrace on the open feed. When the human's face appeared on his screen, he lunged forward, a guttural hiss escaping him. "You vermin! You have no idea what you have unleashed. The full might of the Council will burn your worlds to ash." June listened, his expression not changing. When Kellen's tirade sputtered out, he spoke. "Commander Kalen, you are ordered to take a single shuttle. You will fly it to the Nexus docking bay. You will surrender yourself to human custody. You have 10 minutes. I would rather die." Kalen spat. "That can be arranged," June said, his tone chillingly matter-of-fact. "But if you do not comply, we will begin ejecting your personnel from the Nexus airlock. 1 every minute, starting with Station Commander Volek. The choice of how many Tellurians die today is yours." He cut the channel. Back on the Vengeance, the bridge crew monitored everything. Strategist Tejo, who was linked via secure come from Earth, spoke into June's ear. "Psychology says he will come. His pride is vast, but his culture values the lives of the collective. He cannot be seen to cause their deaths." June simply nodded. He watched the clock dot in 8 minutes. A single Tellurian shuttle detached from the Judgment and drifted, unarmed and slow, toward the Nexus. It was guided into the packed main bay. The sea of Tellurian captives parted as the shuttle landed. The hatch opened. Kalen emerged, dressed in his formal commander's regalia, his head held high with defiant hatred. He expected a bullet, a plasma bolt, a martyr's end. He was met by Sergeant Dehyan and 2 Marines. They did not strike him. They did not yell. They simply took his sidearm and applied energy cuffs. "Come with us," Dehyan said, his voice filtered and impersonal through his helmet. Kalen was marched through the corridors of his own station, past his defeated people, and into the command deck. There, he was forced to his knees beside Volek. He saw the human admiral on the screen. He saw the cold eyes. This was the man who had orchestrated this impossibility. "You have me," Kalen snarled. Now what? You will execute me? It will only seal your species' fate. On Earth, in the secure bunker, Director Minji watched the feed. This was the moment. The galaxy expected blood. The Council's narrative was built on human savagery. She spoke quietly to June over their private channel. Now, Admiral, show them the difference. Admiral June looked at Kalen, then at the feed he knew was broadcasting everywhere. Commander Kalen, you are guilty of the murder of 3 unarmed humans. Your guilt is plain for the galaxy to see. He paused. The entire command deck held its breath. Kalen braced himself. The human race, June continued, his voice filling the silent councils of 100 worlds, is not without mercy. We choose to exercise it where you did not. He gave an order. Across the Nexus, Marine teams began moving. But they were not raising weapons. They were ushering the Tellurian prisoners from the docking bay and other holding areas. They were directing them, firmly but without violence, into the rows of sleek, orange emergency life pods that lined the station's escape routes. What? What is this? Vorlik stammered, watching on a monitor as his people were loaded, 20 at a time, into the pods. You are being evacuated, June stated. Including you, Commander. You will all be set adrift on a trajectory that will take you into the custody of your Guardian fleet in approximately 6 hours. Kalen stared, uncomprehending. This was not victory. This was not vengeance. It was a dismissal. It was mercy, and it felt infinitely worse than any execution. You are fools. He screamed. You think this weak gesture will save you? We will return and obliterate you. Perhaps, June said. But first you'll float. The Marines worked efficiently. Pod after pod was loaded and sealed. Daehyun himself oversaw the loading of Kalen and Vorlok into a command pod. The Tellurian commander's furious eyes never left the Marine's helmet visor. You should kill me, Kalen hissed. Daehyun tilted his head slightly. My people were killed without a chance. You are getting a chance you do not deserve. Do not confuse our mercy for weakness. He slammed the pod hatch shut with a series of dull thuds and hydraulic hisses. Hundreds of life pods ejected from the Nexus. They formed a silent, glittering cloud drifting toward the distant Guardian fleet. A constellation of orange stars against the black, but the Mercy had a spine of steel. As the pods flew, their emergency beacons activated. But these beacons did not just send a simple SOS. They broadcasted, on a loop, a powerful, uncompressed data stream, inside every pod, on every screen, and across every frequency the powerful Nexus transmitters could reach. The recording played. The one Era had sent. It showed the bridge of the Curiosity. It showed the terrified human crew on their knees. It showed Kellen's sneer. It showed the 3 precise plasma bolts. It showed the bodies of Yoon-ji Park and Lee falling to the deck. It played again and again. The truth, inescapable and damning, narrated by the simple text in Galactic Standard. This is why the Galactic Council, watching from their chambers, felt a new kind of horror, not of destruction, but of exposure. Their enforcer was not a hero quelling a threat. He was a murderer of scientists. Their invincible station was not betrayed by traitors or overcome by a mighty fleet. It was taken by a single, clever, determined human ship. And now the humans were not massacring the prisoners in a brutal revenge. They were sparing them, while forcing the entire galaxy to witness the crime that had prompted it. Their helplessness was complete. If they attacked now, they would be slaughtering their own people, drifting in helpless pods. And the humans would broadcast that too. If they did nothing, the truth continued to spread, corroding their authority. Every client species, every neutral world like Era Sivari, saw everything. They saw the crime. They saw the stunning surgical response. They saw the restraint. On the Vengeance, Admiral June watched the pod cloud drift away. The Guardian fleet was moving now, not to attack, but to cautiously begin recovery operations, collecting their shamed people. The Nexus is secure, Admiral, Sergeant Dehayan reported over the comm. All enemy personnel are evacuated. The station is ours. Prepare the final broadcast, June said. He faced the main screen again, knowing who would be watching. Galactic Council. You have seen the crime committed in your name. You have seen our response. We have taken your fortress without destroying it. We have spared your people after you murdered ours. The next move is yours. But understand this. Humanity's mercy is a choice. It is not a symptom of fear. Do not make us choose differently. He gave a nod. On the command deck of the Nexus, a Marine pressed a final sequence on the console. Every system on the Nexus, from communications to life support, shut down in a coordinated cascade. The great station went dark and silent, a dead husk. The Vengeance detached its grapplers. The Spectres returned to their bays. With that same silent ripple in space, the human ship and its fighters vanished, leaving behind only a field of life pods broadcasting the truth, and a crippled symbol of power floating in the dark. The Council could only watch. They had no countermove, no narrative to spin. They stood, for the first time in 1,000 years, completely and utterly helpless. The chamber on the neutral world of Oasis was a masterpiece of galactic architecture. A dome of transparent crystal revealed a sky with 2 setting suns, casting long shadows across the polished stone floor. Representatives from the major council species sat on a raised dais, their traditional places of authority. But the energy in the room was not of a ruling body. It was of patients waiting for a diagnosis they feared. The humans arrived. Not a large delegation, just 2. Director Min-ji, wearing a simple, dark suit of human cut, and Admiral June, in his formal black uniform, his medals absent. They walked across the wide floor without hurry. Their footsteps were the only sound. The council members watched them, these creatures from the young, violent species that had humiliated the Tellurian Guard and made the Nexus a ghost station. The Tellurian delegate, a new one appointed after Vorlak's disgrace, was the first to speak. His voice tried for its old imperiousness, but cracked with strain. You come before this council as aggressors. You destroyed a sovereign station, attacked a peaceful fleet. Min-ji did not let him finish. She stopped at the appointed spot before the dais and looked up, not at the Tellurian, but at the assembled elders of the other species, the insectoid Kithar, the aquatic Nereids, the Avarian Sivari. We come, she said, her voice clear and carrying, to hear the council justify the murder of our unarmed scientists. We have brought the evidence again, if you wish to see it. A ripple went through the non-Tellurian members. The Sivari representative, an elder with wise, dark eyes, subtly shook her head. The evidence had already shattered their unity. To play it again would be salt in a wound. The Tellurian sputtered. That was a disciplinary action, tragically escalated by your crew's resistance. Admiral June spoke for the first time. His voice was quieter than Minji's, a blade of ice compared to her stone. There was no resistance. You executed children for taking a photograph. He let the words hang. We responded. You are lucky our response was what it was. The Kithar delegate clicked its mandibles. You speak of luck. You speak of mercy. Yet you rendered the Nexus inoperative. A vital communications hub is lost. It is a monument, Min-ji replied. A monument to your failure, to your arrogance. We left it intact for you to repair, if you can. A reminder that nothing you build is beyond reach. She took a step forward. We are not here to bargain for weakness. We are here to deliver terms. A shocked silence fell. No one delivered terms to the Galactic Council. You will dissolve the Tellurian restricted zone. The nebula is a natural phenomenon, not a military secret. It will be open to scientific study by all species, under agreed-upon safety protocols. You will cede the buffer zone and 3 adjacent sectors to United Earth jurisdiction, as compensation for the lives taken and as a guarantee against future misunderstandings. The Tellurian military will be restricted to core systems for a period of 50 years. Their border patrol duties will be assumed by a joint fleet, including human observers, and the Galactic Council will establish an independent oversight committee with human membership to review all future disciplinary actions taken against any species. The list was stark, simple, and devastating. It was not a request. It was a restructuring of local galactic power. The Tellurian delegate was apoplectic, his scales modeling. This is extortion. We will never agree. This means war. Minji finally looked directly at him. Her gaze was not fiery. It was exhausted and infinitely cold. War is what you expected the first time. You expected us to scream and charge. You did not understand us then. She paused, sweeping her eyes across the dais again. You do not understand us now. We do not want your territory for conquest. We wanted to ensure that what happened to the Curiosity never happens again. To anyone. Our mercy at the Nexus was a demonstration. We can inflict more than shame. We simply chose not to. That choice is not permanent. Admiral June added, Your fleet is still gathered near the nebula. They are welcome to try to enter the sectors we have named. They will find them mined with silent, undetectable devices keyed to Tellurian energy signatures. They will find our ships, which you cannot see, waiting. You can start the war you crave. It will be the shortest war in galactic history, and it will end with Tellurian warships drifting dead in the dark, just like your personnel in their life pods. The choice, as always, is yours. The ultimatum was delivered without raised voices, without dramatics. It was worse that way. It was a simple recitation of facts, of new, terrible facts that the Council had to digest. They could fight and be annihilated in a conflict where they couldn't even see the enemy. Or they could accept a deep, public humiliation and a loss of power, but survive. The Savari elder spoke, her voice like wind through reeds. The Council will recess to deliberate. Minji gave a single, shallow nod. We will be in our quarters. Do not take long. The deliberation took 3 days. On the 4th, the agreement was signed. It was called the Oasis Accords. The Tellurians signed last, their representative's hand trembling with rage. The news spread across the stars. The Invincible Council had capitulated. A week later, on Earth, a simple ceremony was held at the United Earth Defense Headquarters. It was for the crews of the Curiosity and the Vengeance. The fallen were honored. The living were decorated. Admiral June and Director Minji stood side by side, but their faces held no triumph, only a grim satisfaction. Afterwards, Sergeant Dae Hyan found a quiet spot on an observation deck overlooking the rebuilt city. He had removed his dress uniform jacket. Lieutenant Hae-Won joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. They stood in silence, looking at the peaceful lights below. It doesn't feel like we won. Dae Hyan said finally. We didn't win a war, Hae-Won replied, sipping her coffee. We won an argument. The most important argument. We made them see us, not as insects, not as savages, but as people. People who will not be bullied. He nodded slowly. The corporal, Ji Woo. He asked me if I was scared, boarding the Nexus. I told him no. But I was. I was scared we would fail, and everyone would say we were just animals who got lucky once. He looked at her. They don't say that now. No, Hawan said. Now they tell stories. About the ghost ship. About the day the council stood helpless. They are scared stories. But they are also respectful. In a quiet office, Min-Ji watched the galactic news feeds. Analysts scrolled reports of the Tellurian military withdrawal, of the new oversight committee forming. The narrative had shifted. Humanity was no longer the young, volatile race. They were the quiet power, the ones who had redefined the rules without firing a single shot in anger, the ones who had offered mercy from a position of absolute strength. She thought of Ji-hun and Su-min, who were now recovering on a quiet colony world, their wounds deeper than the physical. She had spoken to Ji-hun. He had asked only one question. Did it mean something? Looking at the feeds, at the new, cautious tone of the galaxy, she believed it did. The Council's helplessness was not a moment of human brutality. It was the moment the galaxy learned that humanity's greatest strength was not its hidden technology or its military discipline. It was its terrifying, unpredictable capacity for restraint. And as the stars turned overhead, a new, careful peace began, built not on the Council's unchallenged might, but on a single, unforgettable lesson, that humanity responded without mercy, and that its mercy was the most frightening thing of all.